Okay, you guys, do you have plans this fall? Guess what? We have plans for you. September the 13th, fall in Nashville is amazing, and we would love, if you live out of state, for you to come be with us and experience the beauty of Tennessee and a whole day of learning. We're hosting a conference called Raising Capable Kids. Jump on our website, check out the show notes for a link, and we'd love to see you there.
Welcome to the Raising Boys and Girls podcast.
I'm Sissy Goff.
And I'm David Thomas, and we're so glad you've joined us for this conversation. Let's dive in.
Amy Brown is co-host of The Bobby Bones Show, the ACM and CMA award-winning program heard on 190 radio stations, and the #1 country morning show in the U.S., reaching millions of listeners. Amy also co-hosts Country Top 30 with Bobby Bones, a 4-hour music program airing on more than 240 stations in the U.S. and Canada, and hosts Women of iHeart Country, a show devoted to supporting female artists and voices airing on more than 150 iHeart Country radio stations nationwide. Additionally, she hosts Feeling Things with Amy and Kat, an Outweigh podcast, and oversees and produces the Amy Brown Podcast Network, which is dedicated to health and wellness programming. A 2-time Gracie Award winner and one of Radio Inc.'s most influential women in radio, Amy also hosts iHeartRadio album release parties for some of country music's biggest stars and participates in the company's annual events like the iHeartRadio Music Awards, iHeartRadio Music Festival, and iHeart Country Festival. Inside and outside the studio, Amy is passionate about raising awareness and funds for numerous charitable organizations, including St. Jude Children's Research Hospital, T.J. Martell Foundation, and the American Red Cross. In 2013, she launched #PimpinJoy, a movement promoting random acts of joy, which was created to honor her late mother, Judy, and the positive way she battled cancer. The movement spurred the launch of a Pimpin' Joy clothing line, which has raised millions of dollars for various charities. Amy also supports the orphanage in Haiti, where her 2 adopted children lived for many years through Team Haiti. We are so grateful for Amy and her work and so honored to get to share this conversation with you. Amy, we have been talking about wanting to have you on for forever. I was trying to remember when I came out to do your show. It feels like it was like a year ago.
It was much longer than that, I think.
It was?
Yeah.
I lose track of time.
Well, time is weird like that.
Yes.
I could probably look back at like my photo log.
Yeah,
I know we took a selfie outside or something, and I could get the year, but yeah.
Well, we have wanted you since then.
Yes, we have.
And just so grateful for the work you're doing in the world. And we'd love to start if you'll tell a little bit about your family and how you found your way to the work you're doing.
Okay. Well, I am Amy Brown. Well, I think y'all did a little intro for me. Thank you.
All the amazing
So
things.
kind. And it's weird to be here at Daystar as like a guest because my daughter comes here as what is she called? Like a client?
Mm-hmm.
Or okay.
Mm-hmm.
My daughter comes here as a client, and so it's kind of fun to be here. Not for that, but I am an adoptive mom. My daughter's 17, and I have a son that's 14, and so I have my mom life, and then I have my career life, which is co-host on the Bobby Bones Show, which is a nationally syndicated country morning show. Radio is a little weird now because back in the day, that used to be how you consumed music, and if you're on a morning drive, that was the goal.
Right.
Yeah.
Everybody wanted morning drive, and now we're in an era where you can consume things all the time, and so we are not only a radio show, but we podcast everything, and we've always loaded up our show in a downloadable form as well. Ever since that became an option, like on iTunes back in the day. So it's just weird now that we have a podcast version of the show too, so you can listen whenever you want. And then I have a podcast myself, and so I feel like I'm radio host, podcast host, mom, and I don't know how I got here with all of them. I know I wanted to be a biological mom. I always wanted to be a mom. In fact, I thought I was going to be a stay-at-home mom. After I finished college, I went into sales immediately with some friends from high school, and it was so much fun. I loved it. It was wholesale, because I'm not a pushy salesperson, but wholesale, like if you give me my customers, I can take care of them.
I was going to say, you're so warm and relational. I would think you would hit it out of the park.
So that was fun for me, especially working with friends, great company, opportunities to travel coming up. And then I met Bobby Bones at a Culver's restaurant in Austin.
No way.
And I listened to the show because I had an hour commute to work, and they were a brand new morning show in Austin, Texas. And so I spent an hour with Bobby Lunchbox, and Jill was their co-host at the time, and got to know Bobby. We were doing the same triathlon. There's a lot of things in between there, none of which are Bobby and I dating in any way, shape, or form, because that's always been a thing. And that is not part of the narrative at all. In fact, I started dating who I ended up marrying shortly after that. And Jill, his co-host, was leaving, and she was my favorite on the show. And I'm pretty sure that's what I said to him when I met him. I just went up to him and I said, "Are you Bobby Bones?" And he said, "Yeah." And I said, "I listen every morning. Like, thank you for the entertainment, because I'm in traffic for a long time." And I said, "Jill's my favorite." And Jill quit to go be a teacher. And again, they were a brand new morning show, one market. She thought, what are we doing? Where's this going? She was probably making
I'm getting up too early.
Nothing. There was no money. And of course, whenever I got the opportunity to come try out for that and see if that was going to work out, I just thought it was the coolest thing ever. And I did take the job, and I took a pay cut to do it. And that's how I ended up in radio, which was so by chance and so by, really, I credit my mom, because she's like, if there's ever a time, you're like 24, 25 years old, that you quit your stable job to go do radio. I didn't really even know what all it entailed. I remember Googling, if Google was even a thing. Maybe Google had just come out, like I remember typing into some search engine, like, what do radio DJs make? I didn't even know that I wasn't going to be a DJ, because I didn't know the difference between a co-host, a host, and a DJ. But I wasn't picking music or programming music or playing music myself. So I was just there to talk. And I took a pay cut, and it was a decision that completely changed my life. And so I'm glad my mom said to me, if there's ever a time to go do this, it's now, because you have no partner, you have no children, you have few responsibilities, you've got roommates, so they can help cover some of, the cost of living and whatnot. So that is my story into radio. And that was almost 20 years ago.
Wow.
And now we're in Nashville, syndicated, and I don't even know how many markets.
Show has
So many
exploded. Oh my goodness.
You're one of the only radio shows I'm even familiar with in this day and time. Y'all just are still killing. I mean, you're in all the spaces, but
yeah, well, I'm very fortunate we feel very fortunate to still be able to do what we're doing, because content, as you know, is literally everywhere.
Yes.
And it just becomes more and more difficult to be known in that space. I don't know that I have a deep-rooted desire to be known in that way, though, so it doesn't really much. But I'm very grateful for the work we get to do, and I like the connection that we have with listeners. But I have a real hard time, with self-promotion in a way, and some people are like, "No, this is everything I've ever wanted, and I was born to be a star." And while I'm very comfortable in front of the mic, I don't have a lot of comfort in that part of sometimes what it takes to be all the way in. But I like the connection with listeners and the opportunity to just open up and share, so that I hear from them and I know I'm not alone. They know they're not alone, even though our stories are sort of same but different, how that goes.
Well, you mentioned your podcast and
I did,
sharing that journey. So let's talk about Feeling Things, and would love to ask you just how did that come about, and what do you hope folks will take away from it?
So Feeling Things with Amy and Kat is a brand new rebrand. It's still on a podcast feed that I started in 2018 called 4 Things with Amy Brown, which is what Sissy was on.
Yes.
And all of those episodes are still up. So still the same feed, but we did just a little makeover, and I felt like it was time. And I share that too, or I want to share this part, because sometimes we hold on to something just because it's familiar and we put so much work into it. And we're like, oh, if we pivot from this, what will people think? Or will they think it was failing? Or am I a failure? Or this is scary to do and it's a lot of work. And now that I'm on the other side of a lot of work of the flip, it's an exhale. I feel like it was the right move. I guess that's not always going to be the case for people. You may pivot and realize like, oh, okay. And then you have to remind yourself obstacle is the way. And there certainly have been obstacles in the process, but we've navigated it well and figured it out. And now it feels like the exhale. And I'm so excited to have Kat DeFada as a full-time co-host with me. She's a licensed therapist here in Nashville. Yeah. And she was co-hosting a bonus episode with me called The Fifth Thing on my Four Things podcast. And I loved our energy together. We're friends. We both have ADHD, so that we have a lot of grace and compassion for working together, because when you work with someone that doesn't understand that style, there can be frustration. Or like, why didn't you remember that? Or why are you derailing us this way? And we have a lot of grace for each other. So that part is fun. I'm like, sweet, she's not mad. And I totally, and vice versa. She'll just text me and say, oh my gosh, shoot, I totally forgot. And I'm like, sweet, I get it. And not everybody operates that way. And it's not that we're, lazy or trying to be forgetful, or it's not important and we don't care. It's just that we both know that our brains work very differently. And we're both working really hard at trying to work in a way that is efficient, but we just have compassion. So I share that too, to like have grace for yourself if you work differently than other people. And
love that reminder. We're working really hard.
We're working really hard. It's different. And so having her as a partner is awesome, because not only does she have a brain like me, but she's a therapist. So she can also remind me of other things and give me tips and tricks and tools, which is great, because I by no means am an expert. And that's what I found is a lot of listeners were coming to me for advice and asking questions that I just didn't feel equipped to answer. And while I have life experience, I don't have all the answers. And Kat, too, is careful with that, of like, similar to y'all being on here and the work you do, it's also important to put a disclaimer of like, listening to this is not therapy. And I'm not, I don't know, if you don't know the whole situation and there's nuance, you're not giving legit advice, but you can give your perspective, you can give guidance, you can come alongside their therapy. It can be just another tool in their toolbox. And that's really what we wanted with Feeling Things, is for people to start to explore their feelings more and understand them. I had what I learned in therapy as an adult. I experienced emotional neglect as a child, and that was really hard for me to wrap my head around, because I had loving parents, like great parents. They did get a divorce, and my dad wasn't always present, but he did the best that he could. And when my therapist first mentioned to me, through some of what I would share from my childhood or how I processed things and the filter I had going on, she's like, I want to explore like that maybe your emotional needs were not met as a child. And I couldn't believe that, because again, I had loving parents, but it takes so much more than that. And I've been on this journey to try to understand my emotions and my feelings as a 40-something-year-old mom now, trying to not repeat that with my two kids. And we also wanted to show that learning about your feelings and having a quote-unquote therapy podcast could also be fun. So we keep it very lighthearted. We tell personal stories. Our ADHD brains go all over the place. You never know where an episode may go, but then we get back on track with, okay, today we're going to unpack shame and guilt. And we'll go down there. But then, that was, I don't know when this episode is airing, because podcasting is fun like that, pre-recording and stuff. But we did an episode the other day about, maybe it was the shame and guilt episode, but we do a feeling of the day. And then you come in and however you're feeling, and we sing this little song. It's like, it's the feeling of the day. And mine was embarrassed. And I was embarrassed because I had just been at the grocery store and I had to suddenly pee. And I've never been pregnant or given birth, so I always thought that was if you birthed a child type thing, that you started to like, I have to pee and I don't know what's going to happen as a woman. And I don't know what's happening with my body, but suddenly I was like, this is going to be a problem. Like, I'm about to just pee here at the grocery store.
It's an age
thing. So I was by the tortillas, and I just knelt down to inspect the tortillas. And I was so embarrassed because I sat there. I squatted there. Like this is my way of waiting for the sensation to pass.
Yes.
But I felt like everybody that walked by is like, oh my gosh, that girl's squatting because she has to pee, which of course they had no idea. But I was like, oh, they have flour tortillas and they have corn tortillas and they have low carb tortillas. Like you would have thought I was a tortilla connoisseur. And really, I wasn't even buying tortillas, but I stood up and then I exited the grocery store. But that was my moment where I was like, oh, it was so embarrassing. And we kind of unpacked too the gifts of feelings and the impairments of feelings and how, the gift of embarrassment sometimes is laughter.
Yes.
And, if you don't lean into some of your feelings and you end up with the impairment, just you see how, I kind of want to lean in so that I can get the gift. And if we can have a better understanding ourselves and then help our listeners have a better understanding of their feelings, and then they can do that with their kids. I just think it could serve us well. So the tagline of the podcast is Feeling Things with Amy and Kat. It's a podcast for anyone who's ever had a feeling or wants to.
So good.
I love that so much. For your listeners, your own work, for your kids. I mean, what a difference that journey for you is making for so many.
Yeah. And I like having a niche, and y'all have that too. I think with knowing that there is so much out there to consume. Four Things I was all over the place. So it could be any random things, any episode you never knew what you're going to get, which was fun for a while. And it's now cool to have a niche and to make that pivot. And I think Kat and I started talking about it last August, and then it debuted in April. And so I was just talking to a friend yesterday that's thinking about doing a similar pivot with her business. And you want it to happen so quickly. And that may even be quick for some people. For some people's business, if you're making a pivot, it might take a year or two. But you just have to start the conversation and then reach out to people. I remember being so nervous asking Kat if she wanted to come on full time. And then when I did, she was like, shut up. I've been thinking of stopping my podcast, because she was hosting one called You Need Therapy. And she was like, I'm kind of ready to put that to bed. And so it just, timing is great. And you just have to be patient. So
yes.
And now a quick break to hear from one of our incredible sponsors who make the podcast available.
David, I have a quiz for you. Fill in the blank. The secret to performing your best every day is...
Queso.
No, try again.
Caffeine.
No, but if you knew the answer, you'd need less caffeine. It's optimal sleep.
I need that desperately.
Well, I have a solution. Good mornings start with optimal sleep, and Lagoon pillows are made just for that. They're customizable, supportive, and will have you waking up feeling your best.
Dive into deep restorative sleep with the 2-minute quiz that unearths your perfect pillow so you slide effortlessly into deep, undisturbed sleep.
It's the thing you lay your head on for 8 hours a night, and if it's not exactly right for you, it can lead to needless tossing and turning, or worse, have you waking up with that unrelenting kink in your neck each morning.
I was matched with the Whale. It's a cooling pillow because I run hot at night. That's the only time anyone would consider me hot.
I got matched with the Otter. It's a cooling and supportive, versatile pillow. Waking up for my morning routine has never felt better. I'm refreshed and pain-free thanks to my Lagoon pillow.
Go to lagoonsleep.com/RBG and take their awesome 2-minute sleep quiz to find your match.
Use code RBG for 15% off your first purchase.
And now back to the show.
Well, in all the amazing things you're doing, that included you also host Women of iHeart Country. How did that come about? And what have you learned being in the company of all of those women?
Well, that came about, at a time where a lot of people had a lot of opinions about women on the radio and how they weren't hearing them. And that is still a struggle. Bobby and I both host the Country Top 30 Countdown every weekend too. And sometimes it's like, oh my gosh, did we just list off the top 30 songs in country music and there was one, sometimes there's none, like female that we named.
Wow.
And so sometimes it's just exposure. So if you're not familiar with what they're doing, then you can't fall in love with their music.
Yeah.
And Bobby decided he wanted to create a show that was specifically for women. And he's like, I don't think it makes much sense for me to host it. So I took on that role. And it's been a nice thing to have that weekly dedication to them. But sometimes, let me be honest, I do wrestle with, it's annoying that we have to have this hour dedicated to women. Like, why can't it just be that there's more women? And there's a lot that goes into programming music and radio. There's a lot of testing, and they're seeing, what does the audience want to hear? What are people drawn to? What do they like? And for whatever reason, sometimes it's a lot of what the guys put out. They don't want a lot of people don't want ballads, although there are seasons where people are like more in the winter time, like, I want something slower. Summer, we want the upbeat, like windows down, fun stuff. And this is just a little inside baseball, that there's so much research that goes into what you're hearing on the radio. It's not like you're just like, by happenstance, the program director was like, let's play this song.
Or so-and-so just has a new single.
There's so much that goes into that. And so they're feeding people what they want. So it is cool to have that hour of like, okay, well, maybe you don't want this, but we're going to do this for an hour. And then to hear from people that were like, oh my gosh, I'd never heard of this artist until y'all played her. Great. That's check. That's what we want. The most special thing for me is seeing new artists, and we debut a song and their song has never been on the radio. And the show airs Saturday nights in some cities and Sunday nights in others. Here in Nashville, it's on Sunday evenings at 7. And the artists will get in their car because they know they've heard from their record label or whatever, like, Women of iHeartCountry, they're going to play your show. And they'll put up their video and film it. And then they post it on socials, and then I get to see it of them hearing their song on the radio for the first time.
Wow.
And Amy. I think that's like one of the coolest moments. And a lot of that is they still remember that feeling of hearing someone else's song on the radio that changed their life, that made them want to get into music. We still have a generation of people that know what that feel like. It's not, or they know what that feels like. Excuse me. They're not all TikTok.
Yeah.
Because a lot of music is discovered there too, which is amazing that there's so many other avenues, but there's still that appreciation of hearing your song on the radio for the first time. And that we get to do that for some of the new up and coming female artists in town. That's really special. Madeline Edwards, we played one of her new songs recently that she wrote for her brother, who had a mental illness and ended up taking his life. And she wrote, her song was over 5 minutes. Wow. And she didn't know if that would ever get played on the radio. But that's the beauty of Women of iHeartCountry, is we get to make up our own rules.
Yeah.
So she was like, I cannot believe that, first of all, y'all played my song on the radio, and that it has this powerful message for anybody that's struggling and going through that, either themselves, or they've lost a family member, or they have a family member that's struggling with schizophrenia, and specifically. But as you know, a lot of mental health can end up taking people a lot of different directions, dark places. And so her song is for everybody that's dealing with that. And she's like, not only did y'all play it, and it's slow and it's long, but it was honoring her brother. And so she filmed it, and that's top of mind because it was a very emotional experience for her. And so it's hard to say what I've learned from some of the women. They're all so gifted and talented and wise. But what I walk away with each week is just this deep appreciation for being a part of helping them tell their stories.
Yes.
Right.
So, oh, Amy, I love that. Yeah.
Well, continuing with thinking about cool moments. So in all this work and even more, we haven't gotten to explore yet that you're doing, including a movie, a Christmas movie, Holiday Harmony. Do you have a particular moment in your career where you just think, how in the world did I get here?
I mean, that might be it. When I'm on a movie set in LA, playing myself, which was weird. The writer, director, it was through Warner Brothers, and the movie's on Max, which our iHeart studio in LA is on the Warner Brothers lot. And so I guess they sent the script to one of my bosses in New York, and he read it. And I guess he thought, I think Amy Brown might be perfect for this. And one of Ryan Seacrest's co-hosts, Sissy. And so we both are in the movie, and I had a scene with the main character in the bathroom.
No.
So my kids were like, what, Mom, your big scene is in the bathroom? And I was like, yes, and to be fair, like we're by the sink, we're fully clothed. Like I went into the bathroom. She wasn't going to the bathroom. She went in there to cry. So it wasn't any, it's not a weird bathroom scene, but that was a pinch me moment for sure. Well, for one, to get that phone call from one of my bosses saying, would you ever consider being in a Christmas movie? And I had voiced this on the air before, and he wouldn't know that. I mean, he doesn't listen to all of our shows. And plus, who knows what year I said this, but I have mentioned multiple times that I would want to be in a Hallmark Christmas movie.
No.
But I said Hallmark specifically. Like, I was like, I don't even care. I'll be the barista. Like, I don't have to be the main person. I'll just do whatever. I want to be in a Hallmark Christmas movie. And this came along, and it wasn't Hallmark, but it was Max. But now Hallmark just was the quintessential.
Sure.
Now Netflix has them.
Yeah.
Everybody has them. So it's just like being in a Christmas movie that's a little love story. So they were, the main character was an artist, and they were hosting this iHeart New Year's Eve special that she was playing at. And then they were like, we want real iHeart talent there. So I got to go be there and be myself. And then my moment in the bathroom, I was sort of the encourager.
Aww.
That was my role.
Which would be natural anyway.
Yes.
So, yeah, but acting with lines, it's hard. It's difficult. I did enjoy it so much that when I returned, I decided to sign up for acting lessons. I realized I should have signed up for the lessons before, like when I got the phone call, but there wasn't a lot of time. And I also signed up for improv classes, which helped stretch me, and it was a lot of fun. I made a promise to myself that I was going to at least audition for other things because that was scary to me, and I was in this mode of do scary things. And I have yet to audition for anything, and I quit taking lessons. But I did do improv. I'm in improv right now for the second time. Just level 1, just fun. Like, I would encourage that to anybody.
Really?
If you are just wanting to stretch yourself and have fun, nobody cares. It's not about being funny. It's actually not the goal of improv at all. It's just being connected with who you are on stage with or whatever scene you've been given and adding to it. It's yes and is the first rule of improv. And I love that. And that helps me at work too. Because there's so many times we get combative at work, or we want to be like, oh no. And we just naturally do that. We're like, well, no, let's. And it's really beautiful to have that yes and in your brain, because then even at home or work or in other relationships, you can lift up whatever somebody else is saying instead of pushing it down. Because when you say, oh no, but if you approach it of like, okay, I see where you're going with that. And it's just got a totally different feel to it.
Yes.
And so that has been a helpful tool in my toolbox that I didn't expect to get from improv. Like, I thought, I'm going to go and learn how to be, funny. But that's not learned. I mean, people that are funny, it's just a gift. So I was like, okay, I'm going to set that aside. I just want to learn how to think more quickly, and the cognitive things that it's doing for my brain are very helpful. And you meet interesting people, and there's no judgment because everybody's up there having to do silly things. And,
and I'm thinking as you're telling the story, like, what an incredible thing for your kids to see their mom do. Like, you know what, guys? I'm going to try something unfamiliar, scary.
Yeah.
Put myself out there in new territory. Like, what an awesome thing for your kids to watch.
Well, I've told my daughter, as soon as you can find time in your schedule, you need to sign up. Like, I think she would love improv, and she's turning 18 next week, so she can drive herself, go to the class, because they're 3 hours, like a 3-hour class, because they want you to get it all in. So the courses, at least here at like Third Coast Comedy, are 8 weeks, and you go 3 hours a week. And I think it would be so good for, I think a lot of kids, I'm like, improv should be a class in school, and maybe it is, but I just never took it. But it certainly should be.
Yes, that would be amazing. Well, okay, let's talk a little more about those kids, or about your journey with them. And you mentioned that you adopted both from Haiti.
We did, yes.
And we have a lot of families who listen that are adoptive parents or are beginning the journey. And so we'd love to know, what do you wish someone had said to you as you were starting out the journey of adoption?
I feel like we had a lot of training and
Mhm.
wisdom from others that had done it before us. But I just don't think anything anybody says can really prepare you for what's actually going to happen. I will say it's good to remember, and someone maybe will say it to you and you're like, yeah. But you have to release any expectations you have of what you thought your child was going to be like, what your parenting was going to be like, and that you're going to be able to parent kids the same. Especially adopting older kids like we did. Our son was 7 when he got here and our daughter was 11. And, we're not able to nurture them when they're little babies.
Right.
So there was some stuff that ended up popping up. And before stuff even popped up, though, quite honestly, it's still just difficult. I spent a lot of time in my closet crying and even saying, what have we done? But I would imagine, too, people that have given birth to a baby and their baby's up all night crying. Now, that's not what our kids were doing, but there was other things. And you're not getting sleep. And you're like looking at your spouse and you're like, what have we done? So I think that could just pop up for any parent.
Yes.
But as we have parented, and Ben and I have since gotten a divorce and we're co-parents now, and we co-parent really well. At least we try to. We make it a point to really be a team and communicate well. And I know not everybody has that luxury because it's not amicable or one partner's not willing to do the work. And you both have to be willing to do the work, whether you're married or co-parenting. And we both have to remind each other, hey, release that expectation that you have. This is not the son you thought you were going to have, and you need to let that go. Or this is not the daughter you thought you were going to have. And it's not that we love our children.
Right.
It's just sometimes you have in your mind, like, well, this is how it's going to be. Or, but you could birth the child. So I guess it's not exclusive to adoption, because sometimes you can think you may have, like my parents, maybe they didn't know at the time I had ADHD or dyslexia. Like I told you, I was undiagnosed until I got to college. I got diagnosed with ADHD in college, but I didn't get diagnosed with dyslexia until my 40s.
Wow.
And so I cried when I got the diagnosis because it was such like just, oh, this all makes sense now. Because I had so much to navigate and figure out. But I think for my parents, I mean, maybe they knew something was a little difficult or off for me, but they were like, gosh, I wish you would just like know how to, or she studied more, or school was easier for her. Who knows what they thought about me. But I think it's common to have those thoughts or those expectations of what you think your kids are going to be like. And you have to really let that go. And if your kids spent a lot of time in an institutionalized situation, like ours did, being in an orphanage for so many years, developmentally, there's going to be some things. And you really do have to surrender that your teenage child is not going to be like other teenagers, and that they're going to be beautiful in their own way.
Yeah.
So
Such
I think
a good reminder.
It's probably a lot I could say around that, but find your people, find your people early on. Like I was thankful to have people that I could call when I was in my closet crying, but there were things I started to experience later that I felt very isolated and alone with. I didn't know what to do, and there were other things going on in our family at the same time, but we had even moved, so it was a different closet. But I was spending a lot of time there and not calling anybody, though, because I didn't know if I had anybody to call. And then I was like, yes, you do. What's beautiful and amazing now is I get phone calls from random people that I do not know because so-and-so said, oh, if you're experiencing this, I think I know someone who may know someone. And then now I get that phone call because I was the one making the phone calls. Do you know anybody that has experienced this, this, and this? And they'd be like, yeah, let me think about it. And then I was calling a stranger or joining some random adopted mom's face group, to like share, is this happening? And then I started to go to in-person meetings of moms that gather. And I'm like, I did not know that moms gathered once a month to just share resources, vent with no judgment, to encourage and love on each other, and just remind each other like, you're doing a good job, Mom.
Yeah.
So that you don't feel it's a safe space, because not everybody can get it, even in your own family, because you do have to start parenting different at times. And there's judgment of like, you're really going to let them do that or act that way. And it's like, I do understand you would punish your child or do whatever you need to do, and you would do that in a different way. And that's not going to work for us. So thank you for your advice. And there was relationships that were severely damaged because of how we chose to parent in the way that we did. And I'm like, this is so silly to me. I would never judge somebody for doing what they need to do. And if they're doing it at the advice of experts, it wasn't just decisions we were making. But that's another thing you have to prepare yourself for, is some people are just not going to get it. And then that's when it's time to be like, okay, well, I'm going to go ahead and set a boundary. And you don't need to be in our life, because I don't have the bandwidth for that. And that's another thing I would just share with people, is sometimes you may have to parent differently. And if others don't get it, then, and they may not, then you just have to stay confident and stay the course. And I think if you can do that and make it to the other side, which I feel on the other side of it now, which is great. But when we were in the thick of it, it was a lot. And now, like I said, I'm now the one, I can get those phone calls and be like, okay, this may not work for you, but I'm going to tell you this is exactly what we did. And so it's like a full circle moment.
Yes.
Yeah. That's so cool.
And in thinking about a parent who's on the front side of that journey, maybe considering adoption, is there any encouragement you'd give to that parent?
Yeah, well, if you're in the process, and I know it takes a lot of time, like it took us 5 years to get our kids. So stay the course, have hope. It will be beautiful. And I just want to give you a hug. If you're in the thick of it, or you're on the front side of it and things seem really scary, like I have my adoptive mom friends. I just saw 2 of them last Thursday. We all randomly were at the same track meet, and we're like, what up? Here we are, we're all together. And one of them was having a week. Like, it had been rough. And we just rallied around her and hugged her, and we held space. So I would say find your people that will hold space for you, and take care of yourself and your partner, whatever that looks like, because it will take a toll on you and your other relationships if you don't prioritize yourself. But sometimes you're like, well, how am I supposed to prioritize myself? Because this is all consuming.
Right.
I had to really do a lot of work on myself. What we were experiencing on the front side, what was coming up for me was a lot of my childhood stuff. So when you become a parent, you realize some of your wounds. And so I think facing that stuff head on, like, don't be like, oh, well, I'll worry about me later. That's only going to delay the whole process, because it wasn't until I got some real healing from some deep wounds that I was able to show up as a more stable parent, because I was almost adding fuel to the fire. So like, say there was certain behaviors that were happening and I didn't have the tools, and then I had my childhood self. So the way my therapist, or we had multiple at the time, would explain it, which I'm sure y'all maybe do the same too. But if you've got like your brain, and then if your child's brain, the lid flips, okay, now there's no rational thinking. And you're sitting there trying to still parent the child in a rational way, and getting very frustrated and aggravated because they're not responding the way you want them to. And they're either in fight, flight, freeze. So then you get all worked up, and now your lid is flipped, and now nobody's rational, and you're going back to whatever age you're going back to.
Right.
And you're now some 12-year-old trying to parent a 12-year-old, and y'all are both just like making it worse. And the way I would respond in a lot of those cases is I would just scream, not like as loud as I could, almost high pitched, like not like I wasn't yelling at them like la la la, that kind of scream, but more of like just like a little angry child that wasn't like stomping their foot like ma, like that. And I would do it in front, like which would do it in front of them. That doesn't help their security. And the problem is, they don't feel secure. That's been the problem since the day they were born, because their needs weren't met. They weren't nurtured. They weren't held if they cried. They weren't fed if they cried. Whatever that need was, it wasn't met. And so now they're still living in fear, and I'm making them more scared because I was screaming. And then I would have so much shame of like, you are now a horrible person and parent. Why do you think you can be a mother? And I would run to my room and just like crawl in my bed and put the covers over my head and like hide and just like pray for it to all be over. But then it wouldn't, because other behaviors would escalate and then it would go from there. But when I decided to really dive in and do the work, like I remember calling a therapist one day, tears running down my face and just saying, I need help. Like, I can't do this anymore, and I'm the problem. I get that they have their stuff, but now I'm the problem because I can see I'm making this far worse than better. And my husband at the time too, like he had his own stuff, and we went and did our work, and it took time, but it's so much more peaceful now that I know that I have the tools, and we all do, and we try to communicate well, and we try to say, hey, I need a minute. I know there's a long answer to your question of like, what would you tell someone that's in the beginning of it? And it's like, if you're starting to see things pop up for you, then do the work because it's going to serve you well. Let me just save you a lot of time because we did not know to do that right away. We kind of thought, well, yeah, we've done therapy. We're good. But when you become a parent, new things come up.
Right.
Yes.
That you didn't know you had buried deep within you.
Yes. And with each new age of your kids.
Yeah.
Yeah. We talk about that so much. The best gift you can give them is to do your own work. And just to hear you talk about it, it's so evident that that's been a huge part of your journey.
Oh, yeah. If you had video cameras in our house, like then and then now, like we could be a case study of like, wow, therapy works. Like, digging deep, doing the work. And
well, so you're a part of our Music City series, which is what we do in the summer and we love. And it's so, your perspective on music is so fun to get to hear. I feel like I've learned so much about you and that too. But if you had to say, if there was a song or artist that has shaped you over the years, I mean, even in your growing up years, what would it be or who?
I'd have to say my growing up years, and it's an artist, and it's George Strait.
Oh.
Because he's the king of country music, and he is what got me into country music. Like I fell in love with country music because of him. My parents would listen to Dolly and Kenny, so obviously that's nostalgic for me, and I love that. And if I hear Island in the Stream, like I was blasting that even for my kids the other day, and they're like, "What is this song?" And I'm like, "Roll the windows down, kids. Just take it in. Like this is such a good song." So there's the classics, but if I think of quintessential country music and like what got me into it, it's George Strait. So I'm very thankful for that. And it's just, I think of my dad. We would two-step to it. And when my dad passed away, we had a playlist on shuffle because he was on life support. So my sister made this playlist on his iPad of all of his music. And shuffle is where it's random. You just press shuffle and, whatever song comes up. And we were removing him from life support. And you don't know how long that's going to take. It could be 30 seconds. It could be 3 days. And the doctor's like, we don't know. They're like, but based on what we're seeing here, it could happen fairly quickly. We just don't know. So we're like, okay, so we're there and we decide to finally do it. And the music's playing in the background. And we unplug him. And the song came on with Dolly, and now I can't think of his name, but the song, it's a Christian artist, There Was Jesus. There was Jesus. Dolly says that. And so that's the line.
Wow.
Right when the doctor said, which he didn't know that was the song that was on, right when the doctor said, okay, he's passed, Dolly sings, There Was Jesus.
Wow.
And it's the end of the song. Like, I don't even think we realized that was the song that was playing because we were just so like in the moment.
Wow.
And then when Dolly's voice said that, that's such a powerful song. Just look it up and you'll get the male artist. And I'm bummed right now. I cannot think of his name. But then the song that came on right after that, guess what it was? Well, you won't. It was George Strait, Amarillo by Morning, which was our dad's favorite song. It's my favorite song. And it was so perfect because we just pictured him two-stepping his way into heaven. And
Wow.
So George Strait's just been special since I was a kid, and now special because I'm an adult. And like I have that precious memory from a couple of years ago.
Wow.
So like George is king. I love him.
Thank you for sharing that story.
Yes.
That is beautiful.
Yeah, and y'all need that song. I feel
Yeah.
bad. I want to think of that artist's name. I saw him even play at the Opry once, and he's so good. He's a Christian
Is it
artist.
Zach Williams?
Zach Williams.
'Kay.
Boom. High
Way
five.
to
Just
go,
came to
David.
me.
Came to you.
Came to me 1 second ago. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, this is teamwork.
There you go.
Mhm. Yes, he's so good.
Yeah.
And that song is so good.
Yeah.
Need to
So
listen.
there you go. Y'all need to, if y'all don't
That's
know, if you're
incredible.
listening right now and you don't know There Was Jesus, which I think is the title of the song, but could be something else, or Amarillo by Morning from George Strait.
Yeah.
We don't want this to end.
I
But we're going to
know.
respect your time. We're going to choose to do that. And we have one last question we end with every time that's something fun and food related. So
Okay,
it's
perfect.
2-part question.
Okay.
Part 1 is queso or guac, and part 2 is what's your favorite taco?
Queso. for
Yeah,
days,
right away. I
right?
love it.
What
Great
are you?
choice.
I'm more guac.
Oh.
But but if you'd seen me today with queso, you'd be like, and really? I mean, I just consumed 2/3. You barely
Where?
had 3 bites.
Where do you like queso
Lady
from in
Bird.
town? Lady Bird, yeah.
And Superica. And actually, we went to Little Ray last night. That's new on West End.
Oh, I haven't been. Where?
Have you been to
You gotta
Superica?
go.
I've been to Superica, yeah.
Okay, so Ford Fry started Superica, who's one of my best guy friends from college.
Oh, fun.
And he just opened Little Ray.
Okay.
Little Ray, yeah.
It's incredible.
Incredible. Down where Chipotle used to be on West End.
Okay.
So good. Great queso, great margarita,
The
everything.
carne asada taco.
Yes.
Oh, is that your favorite
Next
taco?
level.
Carne
Uh-huh.
asada?
I don't know. It's my all-time favorite. I love a breakfast taco. I love a fish taco.
See
but
that?
try the steak taco there.
It was so good.
It's
Okay.
so good.
Yeah.
I will. Okay, so I'm a queso girl.
Okay, and taco?
My taco, well, you said breakfast taco, and that's it. It's Amiga's.
Mm.
Amiga's taco.
Yes, at?
Well, I
Lady
mean,
Bird.
Ladybird.
Yeah,
That's amazing.
course.
But also just homemade. Like, I
Yeah.
love a good, I mean, you don't even have to be all fancy. You can get a can of Rotel and throw the whole can in an iron skillet and then crack some eggs in there and then
Oh,
cut up some tortilla strips or crumble up some chips if you're
yes.
wanting to do that and then roll it up
Yes.
in a tortilla. But I
yes.
mean, I like it with avocado. It doesn't have to be guac, but, and don't get me wrong, I like guac. I didn't mean to shame you. I was being
You
like,
just-
you're,
You
You
just
gotta
helped
go
me
back and watch
confess
that.
to what
No.
I did today at lunch. That's
No.
all you did. You helped me.
I
Be
do.
truthful.
I do feel like when you said guacamole, I looked at you like you were a total loser. So I wanted to confirm that
you
I'm
helped
not
me be
shaming you.
clear. You helped me be clear.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
Amy.
so-
You are
you-
so fun to spend time with.
Yes.
Well,
thank
thanks
you
for
so
having me.
much.
I adore and appreciate y'all and all the work that you do so much
Thank
and
you, friend.
just the impact you make on so many people. And I'm grateful and know so many other parents that are grateful too. So thank you.
Thank you, Amy.
Mhm.
David, what a team we have that we get to call friends who help make this podcast possible. Chris Starrett, our engineer,
Our management team at KCH,
and we are thrilled to be a part of the That Sounds Fun network.
our music was created by the insanely talented Dave Haywood of Lady A.
And if this podcast felt helpful to you, please consider subscribing, liking, sharing, all the things.
We are grateful for you and cheering you on always.